Welcome to the Sunday Record It. Today we're going to be talking about the rhythm of life, because January for me is all about renegotiating the terms of my daily rhythm and the things that I do weekly, like this, the Sunday Record It. Says me now. I'm kind of resurrecting this class. It's going to be a little different than what it was before in the past. Because really what I'm going to be sharing here is my journey as a student inside the program that I've built, Popmatics. And I feel like going into year 3 here, I've completed my residency, and I haven't done a lot of long-form videos on YouTube over the past few years. There's some, but there's not many. And that's mostly because I've been working on the inside and building the school and listening to students and finding out what they like and what they need and helping to build bridges everywhere to make music easy for people. But I had to put myself through the daily rhythm to make sure that it's good for me. And if it's good for me, I know it'll be good for you. And that is what is so important about building a program like this, because we have music teachers in the program. We have new students in the program who have, and I say it's totally true, whether you've been playing for 20 years or 20 minutes, what's going on here at Popmatics is good for you. It's kind of crazy that you could teach a class to someone who is highly experienced and someone who has almost no experience. And because of the way that you build the sandbox, the way that you construct the constraints to work within, you can find incredible results at a very beginner stage, and if you have a lot of experience, you can do more with the instructions that I offer. And so I'm going to give let's start with just like a little example of this, because this is the first kind of daily rhythm that I put into place, which was what I call the daily Campfire. So every day I would take 5 minutes and I would come to my piano and I would just create. And I would try to create within a space where not only are mistakes okay, but they haven't even been invented yet. So I can't really make any mistakes. I might hit something that I didn't expect to hit, and I don't know how to deal with it or something, and so it could be perceived as a mistake, but the goal is to just try to go back to that creative place that you were as a child, and you just believed everything you made was going to be great and people were going to love it. And so often we worry of what others are going to think of what we're doing. And so we don't share much of what we create. Or if we do, then it comes with a bunch of, I'm still working on it. And it's like, look, we're all still working on it. So it started with this. I'm in the key of G flat here, because at Popmatics we do a Campfire calendar. So throughout the year, each month is assigned a specific key, and it goes in a very specific order. That's good for you because I thought about it. And so it's in the perfect order. And here in January, we start kick off the year in the key of G flat, which is the most accessible key for creativity. It's like there's no barriers. And so every January, in addition to being in G flat in our program, where all our creating classes, we do creating classes 4 times a week. And so there's like a theme each week, a little adventure. That we all go on together. And I give instructions in class. Start very easy. And can build up. Very quickly. But even if you're a beginner, just some basic elements of rhythm can have you sounding good pretty immediately, right? And that's what the Campfire course, we run this twice a year. We're running it right now. It's not too late. If you're interested, you can go to our website and check it out. But these are the original 10 lessons, and you get one new thing in each lesson. And you build this underlying framework that supports everything that you've heard me play already today, right? So that's kind of like the first rhythm I wanted to put in place in my life, was this idea of daily creation. With, total freedom. I might start with a little constraint, like I might start with saying, I'm going to start in G flat. And now I get to kind of download all my foundational knowledge of what I know in the key of G flat, and I just get to play. It's super fun, right? Oftentimes I just start with these first 10 days worth of instructions. Right? You don't have to have a lot of notes for things to sound beautiful. And I think it's important before you start getting into trying to learn how to play songs perfectly and trying to read sheet music, which we'll have a conversation about that down the road. But I mean, that's kind of almost like the ultimate shortcut. They almost talk about people learning music through listening and trying to understand sound and recognize patterns and recognize shapes, just even through studying the instrument alone, let alone the theory that connects to it. Like, that's somehow a shortcut to learning how to become a great musician. And I find that often the opposite is true, when too much emphasis is placed on playing correctly, playing the right note, perfect articulation, phrasing. It's like, I know that that's kind of the standard of what you get in a traditional music lesson education, where the book comes in, immediately creates a separation between you and your instrument, and now you got a supervisor letting you know of everything that needs improvement, because that's kind of their job, is to, or at least they think it is, to point those things out, because it makes you look like a teacher. It's kind of like when you get a new manager at a place and they want to be seen. They want to show that they're doing their job, and so they want to manage, instead of just like starting with, what's a baseline foundation of what works in my life? And I know for everybody, 5 minutes of creating every day in this space where you try to just believe everything you're going to create, every note you're going to play is going to be amazing, and people are going to love it, because they would if you were 5 and people were listening. Listen to them playing piano. It's just so fun to watch, right? But the inner critic prevents a lot of people from the sharing part now. And so I'm going to try to overcome that myself through this weekly episode here, because I make videos all the time. I make videos all the time for students inside the program. And then it's like almost like you feel like you got to be a little careful of like what you say on the outside. You listen to people in marketing worlds, and they tell you, messaging, marketing, all of this, and just the formats and the formulas and just different ways of trying to reach an audience. When you start taking advice from people, I don't know, it's always been a little difficult for me, and I've tried some of those things and I've tried some of those avenues, but nothing feels better to me than just telling you straight what I think you need. What do you need? And I think you need a routine. Every student, before you even come to Popmatics, you can work on this stuff. Popmatics is a fun place to do it because we've got a lot of people doing it together. And so, feel like 100% of musicians are looking for a place to belong, and this is a good place to call home. Because, I'm not trying to supervise anyone. I'm trying to help be a guide for you on this amazing journey of music. But the one thing that we tell you to do when you're at Popmatics is the daily Campfire. 5 minutes of creating every day. Okay, so I did that for a year, and it was no longer really a challenge for me. I recorded every session, and I put it into my locker, and it became part of the rhythm of life. And so in year 2, I started another project that was more centered around listening. And the idea was to build a playlist, a deck of songs that were a representation, like the representatives for musical ideas that I have. And so this is my deck here, 52 songs, just like, hey, 52 weeks in a year, 52 cards in a deck. It's kind of like another annual cycle, the same way we do it in creating classes where we have 12 months and we go through a key signature each month. You've got this annual circuit that you're kind of working yourself through. And the building of your deck is kind of something we also encourage to try to do over the course of a year. And so in our listening classes, I show you how to pull out souvenirs from songs, because the goal is to be able to say the one reason why that song is in your deck. Like, what is the lesson that it teaches you? And if you can do that times 52, you have a pretty good framework for your musical understanding. And so at Popmatics, along the trail, there's like souvenirs everywhere. It's very easy once you realize like how to take one thing out of a song. It really just starts with listening. And that's another thing that I practice as a student of music. Right? I want to be a musician, so if I'm going to be a musician, then I just got to live like a musician. What do musicians do? They listen and they create. So I got the creating for 5 minutes a day. For listening, I try to do 20 minutes a day, because I can do this in the background. Just this is the wrong playlist. That's from my 8-track. That was a song we covered last week. Yeah. So I just got this very low in the mix. This is No Surprises. This is Radiohead. I think of this as giving me that just to demonstrate what I'm talking about here. This gives me that immediate understanding of the space between major and parallel minor. And that's kind of a heavy conversation, because okay, that's a deep theoretical thing. Yeah, that's kind of top level, but I can break it down all the way down to saying, like, this song I know is based in the key of F. It's out of tune with a regular piano, so if I try to play it, it's kind of like in between keys. But I know that if I stop it, I know that I could go to the piano. So I have this key of F, and then I go 4 minor chord, B flat minor. And I love that kind of turning the coin heads to tails. It's like F, and then that chord gets borrowed from the parallel minor. Now, that's pretty still deep level. You just say, hey, it's a 4 minor chord. It introduces the flat 6 off the landscape. Popmatics, we have character names for these. I call that the king. And there's stories that build around it, because sometimes it gets a little confusing. Oh, sharp 4, flat 2, da, da, da. If you just start with the idea that songs are in keys, and they have 7 notes that are part of the landscape and 5 notes that are not, and all keys are kind of constructed the same, so you start to learn how these characters, they start to develop personality, and you begin to recognize them, because you say, hey, that sounds like that thing that happened in No Surprises. And all of a sudden, you're out there recognizing a 1 to a 4 minor chord, just because you're making the connection. And so when we build the deck at Popmatics, this is something, again, it took me about a year to do it. To build a playlist, it took me a year? No, it took me a year to decide which 52 songs were going to go in this deck. Which songs are the best representatives? Because I kind of had to do it a little retroactively. I had to go back in time and think about some of these songs. And so I've had songs that have come in, and then I realized, no, this one doesn't have a strong enough lesson, and I had to make a trade for another one that had a stronger lesson. And that still happens occasionally. Like my deck, even though it's complete, and not only is it complete, but I've stacked it in order of exactly how I would want to tell someone the story of music from the beginning to the end. So I can take you through. We should do that at some point. We do the 4 hour. I don't know how long this is. Does it tell you? I don't know. I don't know if it tells you, but I'm pretty sure it's like 4 hours and 2 minutes. That's pretty precise for someone who said it. I'm pretty sure but I'm pretty sure I saw those numbers, 4 and 2, which reminds me of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you understand that connection, we can be good friends. Now, I don't want this to go on too long. We're at 16 minutes. It's not too bad. 20 minutes is probably good. 20 minutes of listening every day, even if it's in the background, still counts. That's the rules I've set up for myself. All I have to do is hit that play button, and it can be playing at a very low volume, kind of like it is right now as I'm talking to you. I'm not totally focused I'm not doing a detailed listen of this song. But what's happening is I'm being reminded right now of why that song is in my deck. And I'm being reminded sonically, too, because I can hear it, that flip from major to the parallel minor. Okay? And now, again, that might not mean anything to you. That's okay. As long as you hear it, it's just you recognize something. You figure out what it is. You find out what it is on the instrument. You put it into some type of vocabulary that you can understand. And that's what makes Popmatics so special, because Popmatics, in addition to the listening and creating classes, we have 40 lessons to develop your understanding of sound. We call it the set list. And the set list is literally the 40 lessons, the 40 items that I need. They're 40 concepts that help me understand everything about music. And so I can explain anything simply through the Popmatics lens. But because a lot of people, and I know this feels probably, I don't really want to say this, but not a lot of people have the foundation that they think they do. And I'm saying that as someone who thought they had a really good foundation, and then over and over I keep learning that that wasn't the beginning. There's more of a beginning. there was more before that story. That's why I laugh sometimes. People say, all you need is chords. All you need is to start with 3 notes all happening at the same time. Like, no way. There's more to the story. That's a party trick. You can show someone how to do that, and like everybody can learn how to do it in 10 minutes, but they're not going to finish your course because you're skipping over so much of what makes a chord. And so it's like, I want to talk to anybody who thinks they know where the beginning of music is, because like I feel like I do. And the only reason I say I feel like I do is because I've been surprised so many times that I'm like, could there be more? But I don't think so, because it feels very complete now. And when you work on something every day for 7 years, you kind of know when it's done. And I've always said how Popmatics feels more like something I discovered than I created, because there are so many other sources that have contributed. You know, at the very least, you're in co-creation all the time. And so I'm at the place now where I can't foresee any more beginning or more end. The circle is complete. And those 40 lessons, it's been over a year since I've heard something that I needed to like make an adjustment for. And I listen to music all the time. I'm in Spotify's like top 2%, which I'm going for top 1% this year. But I listen to music all the time. And Popmatics gives me that perfect vision And so that developing of your understanding of sound, that will kind of happen naturally, but it doesn't happen on your own. You need to be in an environment where you can talk about things and share ideas with others. By the way, this song, Coconut, Harry Nilsson, I've got it on shuffle, so whatever comes up. I call this one Life on 5. This is probably, once I got into the whole concept of modes and understanding that, which we don't really talk about at Popmatics, not in that sense, but this is what they call out there in the world, that Mixolydian feel. And no song immediately delivers that to me as much as Coconut. Someone says Mixolydian, I just think Coconut. The whole song is one chord, but it's got so many cool rhythms. All right, I'm going to stop it here because another song will come in and I'll keep talking. Let's see what this turns into. Today, I just wanted to talk about what I think is important for everyone. That's why when I say 5 minutes of creating, turn practice into play every day. But if you're like me and life's crazy sometimes, then maybe you miss a day. Well, it doesn't all fall apart. It doesn't have to wait till next year for you to start again. It's 5 minutes every day. Turn practice into play. And if you miss a day, don't let it turn into 2. Because I don't want to tell you, oh, it should be the same 5 minutes every day, because my life doesn't work like that. So if it's not good for me, why should I say it's good for you? But my daily campfire, 5 minutes of creating, it's not on my to-do list. It's on my don't forget to do list, because this is about something that's very important to me. And if something that's very important to me, I can't give myself 5 minutes every day, then how important is it really? So that was my challenge. And so this year, I'm kind of back to recording. I kind of took a break last year to build my deck. This year, I'm back to recording, but with a twist. I've added a little bit more structure and intention. But I don't even want to talk about that right now, exactly what I'm doing. I'll save that for next time. But so many people think about, what should I practice? What course should I get? What routine should I follow? What exercises do I need to do? The first thing is have a routine where you can get to the music, your instrument and play music for 5 minutes every day in an environment where everything you play is great. This is not about practicing scales. This is about creating something new, generating new ideas, and liking the way that you sound, studying the instrument, being curious, trying things, wondering what it's going to sound like. This is good for everyone. And so that's what we practice. That's what I preach at Popmatics. 5 minutes of practice, turn practice into play, 5 minutes every day. If you miss a day, don't let it turn into 2. End of the year, you're going to end up with hundreds of recordings of you improvising in that very free space across all 12 landscapes, and that is a very good thing for everyone. The 20 minutes of listening, building your deck, again, this happens. It's very clear steps. You don't just start with 52 songs. You start with 2 songs. And then as you learn from them, and you get your souvenir, you get your lesson, you open up a spot to bring in another one. So it's not overwhelming, and you have these songs going on in the background. I only say it's kind of a year project because I don't want it to turn into a 5-year project. This isn't building a playlist of your favorite songs of all time. This is, what are the memorable learning experiences and what songs are they linked to? It's really quite amazing. And everybody's deck is different. And when we come to class and we share things from our deck, share cards, share lessons, share souvenirs, everyone can hear them and say, I like that one. I'm going to put that one in my deck and go learn how to play a little bit of that. And that's kind of part of it. It's I can communicate the lesson. I can tell you why that song is in there, and I can demonstrate it for you at my instrument. And I get to bring all that understanding with me to the campfire sessions too. So the whole improv game gets really amazing. And then developing your understanding of sound, that there's no books on that, because nobody can do that. Nobody can write that book for you. It's your understanding of sound. You can study music theory and you can figure out what all these different musicians online have to say, but at some point, you have to try to share that information with somebody else. Can I get somebody else to understand this? Do I understand this myself? Is this actually helping me play better my instrument, right? Because sometimes you get into that game. It's like you get so consumed with the information of what you can do that it doesn't actually translate to anything that's that particularly useful. So you got the head knowledge, but not like I can't play anything really. So anyway, gosh, this is, I guess I want to play for a minute as I'm kind of wrapping things up here, you know. I just want to play. I'm just going to demonstrate. Kind of want to use a road sound today. Almost forgot where I was in the song. Took it back to G flat, you know. It's just a little playing, you know. Those are some things I've been all in the key of G flat, right? Because I've been doing these little daily campfires, and part of my routine now is trying to incorporate a few verses of Amazing Grace. Starting very simply. Little things you can just give yourself the time, the space, the freedom to explore. That note's not supposed to be there, right? But at the campfire, you can try it, right? It brings a brightness. Right? But I knew I was gonna, it's like, I'm gonna try it. Let's see what happens. Now that I've played it before, you hear it again. Now, maybe it's a little bit more like you get used to it, right? So this whole idea of, sometimes I hit notes and I'm like, oh, I didn't intend to hit that, but I guess that's part of the story today. And that's all it is. You learn in a very kind of Bob Ross inspired way how to work with everything on the canvas. All right, this was pretty random. And we went into a lot of different directions, but that's today's episode of the Sunday Record It. That's me trying to figure out, what is this going to be? So if you got anything that you heard here that was helpful to you, or you have some feedback, or you've got a question, or you'd like me to talk about something on here, as a student of music, that's kind of like what I want to talk about in this session. That's about it. I just want to have a place that's for me, that I'm not too worried about putting everything inside of a 20-minute class or anything. I can just talk about whatever's on my mind and reflect. And that's the idea of the record it. It's make a record of it, record it, capture that moment in time. It's something you can always return to later to see where you were at. You can notice your progress and improvement. That's why we have you record your campfire sessions. That's why we have you build the deck, So you have these things that you can go back to, because listening and creating, those are the two elements of making music easy. That's what you need to pay attention to. And we've got a great program here. So if you want to learn more about it, check out popmatics.com. Subscribe for more. I've made a bunch of shorts over the last like little 1-minute clips. If you go to our channel there and look under the shorts, you can see all these like little 1-minute tips, and they're great, but it's like so much information in 1 minute. And sometimes it's hard to say what you want to say. So I'm going to keep doing those, but I wanted a little space here where I can just share my thoughts. And I know that this will get better as I receive feedback. So please let me know what you think. And if you like what you see, hop on the Popmatics Express, follow for more, and thanks for listening.